Hey everyone, welcome to Graph Builders Office Hours. We've got a really fantastic guest here today. We've got Sam Green of Semiotic Labs, who's going to be sharing a lot of what he's been working on in the past few months and years. So before we get going into this, I have a few announcements that I would like to make. The first thing that I would like to share briefly is that we are still looking for beta testers for the time series and aggregation feature that is right now live. And if anyone out there would like to scan this, I'll also be posting the link in the chat for this. Go ahead, play with this new feature. It's really impressive that we're going to be able to use this as subgraph developers. Really helps out with compute within the subgraph, making it much easier. And then, of course, every single month I write the Graph Builders newsletter. That is something that really summarizes what is going on for builders in the graph ecosystem, making sure that builders know what's going on and making sure they're just up to speed on any new updates that are useful to their building experience. So with that being said, that's all the announcements for today. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And then from there, we're going to give the camera over to Sam Green of Semiotic Labs. Welcome, Sam.
Thanks, Marcus. Hey, everyone. So today I'm going to be talking a lot about SQL, and I'm going to be talking about the current efforts we have going on with bringing SQL to the graph, and maybe just a little bit of history. You know, the graph started by solving this indexing problem. And, you know, I just moved to Houston, Texas, where oil is big. And you may have heard the analogy that data is the new oil. And, you know, going after oil is a very difficult and expensive task. And you know, once you have the systems in place to start collecting the oil or collecting the data, then you can start processing it and bringing more and more value to the raw material. And the first thing that the graph did and found amazing product market fit was by processing the raw data using subgraphs, and then putting that data, that processed data, making it available via API calls for dApps. And so I think most of you on the call are probably know that the graph invented the word subgraph, which is now a market or a standard term in the market outside of even the graph. Under the hood, so there are a couple things going on with the efforts that we have going on at Semiotic. One is that under the hood, the graph, in the process of doing the transformations of the raw data to get it available for GraphQL queries for dApps, that data is stored in a Postgres database. And so we have a lot of data that's already, so that basically, because that data is in a database, we can access it in different ways. GraphQL is great for dApps, as we know, but if you want to do analytics on our data, then SQL is a more convenient and just standard language for specifying what data you want and how you want it. And SQL is typically used more often for ad hoc analytics queries, whereas GraphQL is great for if you have like a fixed query that you want to get an API endpoint for and send that over and over again for display in a dApp. So you want the same information repeatedly. So Semiotic has been working on exposing SQL, the existing SQL in the graph, the existing SQL in our Postgres databases. That's our current major effort, and I wanted to give you a demo of that today, but we're just now getting it stable enough to even make queries. So it's still basically we have bugs, and I wasn't able to show the demo. I'm not able to show the demo of being able to query the existing SQL. But you'll be seeing that in the next few weeks. I'll record a demo. I'll probably put it on Twitter. So that's what we call exposing the graph's existing data is what we call subgraph SQL, meaning we want to make queries, SQL queries against data that's collected during syncing of subgraphs. The other SQL effort going on in the graph is substream SQL. So this is an entirely new approach to collecting data. And as I think probably most everybody on this call knows, with substreams, you can easily specify what we call a sink, S-I-N-K. That's a term that Streaming Fast came up with. And basically, you can write a substream in Rust, typically, although I think there is support for other languages. But you write a substream, and it's similar to a subgraph, and it does these transformations, and it's different from the subgraph. It's similar to the subgraph in that you can do arbitrary transformations of the data. It's different from a subgraph in that you can sync it, S-I-N-K, to whatever target you want to, including CSV files. You can just do live streams of data. You can sync it into new databases. And we have done a lot of experimenting syncing substream data into an analytics database called ClickHouse. And analytics databases are designed for ad hoc analytics queries. Whereas Postgres, which is where subgraph data goes to, is a Swiss Army knife of a database, and you can do whatever you want with it, but it's not great at everything. It's just good. It can do everything, but it's not specialized. So last year we worked on a proof of concept, what we call Playground, for experimenting with the substreams SQL database. And on top of in addition to using it, and that thing's called Agentc. I'm about to show you a demo of it. And in addition to using it as a playground for substream SQL, we also were using it as an experiment for natural language to SQL queries. And we believe that natural language is a better interface for many data analysis tasks versus writing raw SQL. Even if you know SQL, if you can write the natural language version of the SQL, if you can write your natural language question and have the SQL query written for you, it can save you time. So yesterday I was playing around with Agentc for this, to prepare for this presentation. And I made something that I'm going to share with you in a moment. Sorry, give me one moment. I didn't think that I was going to show this video, but I realize that now that I want to show you a video before getting into showing you how I made it. Here it is. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen. So yesterday I made this in about 30 minutes. And what you're looking at is I was curious about the real time, or I was curious about what tokens have been traded during the last hour. And this is all Uniswap data that I'm visualizing. If there's an arrow, it means we're trading to that token. So right now, all these tokens, right, that I'm skimming through here are all swaps from ETH, which was at the center here, wrapped ETH. It's coming. That means it's coming from Uniswap V2 to all these tokens. And this was during the last hour before I made this analysis. And the thickness of the lines are proportional to the total volume of trades during the last hour, the analysis. So, for example, there was a lot of USDT to USDC swapping. There was a lot of ETH being sold to USDT. ETH is this fat one, or is the center one, and this line. Let's go into it. I don't know why I'm showing you this version. I actually have the live this plot right here. Graph now? Or are you seeing my video?
We are able to see the graph right now.
So the thickness of the lines correspond to the total volume. And so I'm going to show you how I did this. It's all this data, it comes from the graph. And the nice thing about substreams is super fast to collect all this data, and ClickHouse is super fast to analyze the data. So I'm going to show you how I made this. So Agentc basically does natural language to SQL conversion, and then it queries for the the resulting SQL. And right now this is a proof of concept. We're currently tracking all versions of Uniswap on Ethereum and all the clones, Uniswap clones on Ethereum. So I can do things like, what dexes do you know about? And what it does is here you could see that it converted my natural language query to SQL, and that's annoying. Then it runs that SQL on our database, and it shows I know about Uniswap, SushiSwap, and a bunch of other dexes. And sorry, let me turn this plugin off. It's still there. So then I could say what versions. I can do other things like, what versions of Uniswap do you know about? And we know about Uniswap 3, version 3, version 2, and Uniswap X, which is a new version. And then what I was doing yesterday to get the data that I wanted, I said, give me, I said, all Uniswap transactions, from the last hour. And so this is all, our data is up to Chainhead. So, right now I'm getting, okay, so we have a, so we have a limit, so it just stops at the first 5,000 in this case. But this shows me all the information, all the Uniswap transactions during the last hour. I could do other things. I could say things like, what was the highest USD swap value during the last day? Include token symbols. Actually, I'm going to leave that typo in there. Oh, that's disappointing. So the thing about natural language to SQL is it doesn't always work. I'm pretty confident in it, as you may have could tell from my presentation, but sometimes it doesn't work. Um, and I'm actually not sure. Okay, so here we had this shows you just a an aspect of using LLMs. You may have heard of LLMs hallucinating. In this case, what has happened is that I think what's happened is that it's assuming, it hallucinated the name of a column in the database that doesn't exist, and this happens with LLMs. Unfortunately, this is one of the challenges of deploying these LLM-based solutions in production. But on the other hand, its ability to hallucinate is also its source of creativity, which it lets it understand nuances and fix things. Like it would have known that it knew that I was looking for the token symbol. As you can see here, it just didn't pick the right column name. Okay, so here we can see that the highest swap during the last day was a $4 million swap, an Uniswap. Okay, so now I want to show you how to combine this. What I did with to get the data that I used for that graph visualization, I searched for all Uniswap transactions during the last hour, and unfortunately you can't see the full query, but I said only include the token bought symbol and the token sold symbol. And here you can see this is the SQL that it generated, and here's the data that it generated. And with Agentc, you can download the CSV, and you can download the CSV. Oh, there we go. I'm trying to get it to. I want to just rerun this thing. Sorry, I can't just rerun that. So you can download the CSV, and then what I did was I went to ChatGPT, and I'm using GPT-4, and I uploaded that CSV that Agentc generated, and I said, use Python to create a directed graph visualization of the attached data. And GPT is great at doing this sort of task. And you could see that it read the CSV, and it saw the column names in the CSV, token in, token sold symbol, token bought symbol, and it wrote me some code it read the file, and then it started thinking about, okay, I need to make a graph, and then it wrote the Python code so that it could visualize it. And here you can see what it did. This is its first approach, and it generated this static image. It's not interactive, and it's useless. And what I did is I gave it I screenshot it, and I told him, well, you can see I could just call it him. I'm talking to it. I told it that it's unreadable, and that I only want the most significant transactions, only the significant traffic or transactions. And it tried again, and it was a little bit better, but still horrible. And so I told it to use a force-directed dynamic graphing library, still with Python, and write the code for it so that I could run it locally. And then it generated this code, and I ran that code on my local machine, I just ran it as is, copying it, and there was an error, and I copied and pasted the error that I got when running it in my local machine, and it read my error and said, you should try this. Set no book equal false in this line, and I did, and then that ran it correctly. But then I told it that I wanted arrows indicating the direction of the trades, so that I could see which tokens were being bought and sold, and that gave me the final result. So you could see that now I can rerun that SQL command, and we can get fresh data, and I can update that graph of I can update the graph of what the currently popular data is. So let's see, I guess two things. One is that with Agentc, if anybody here would like to use Agentc, you can go to agentc.xyz and you can sign up for it. But just ping me if you want access to it, and I'll add you to the whitelist so you can play with it. The other thing is that Agentc, again, is just a playground for us to experiment with new UX. And we aren't going to turn Agentc into a product. What we want to see is and what we expect to see and are seeing are some of the other great tools being built on the graph, like Dappliker, and playgrounds, using natural language to access our data, the graph's data. And so that's how we basically, that's where we see this going. And we were using Agentc as a use case to be our own consumer of SQL, so we understood what we needed to build. Otherwise, it was difficult for us to know how to build a SQL product. Maybe I'll stop there and see if anybody has any questions.
Yes, there are some questions, Sam. But first and foremost, thank you so much for sharing what you and your team have been working on. It is quite impressive and exciting to open up these possibilities for the graph as a whole. So we're quite excited to be building with this soon. And as far as the questions, one of the questions from Yarrow, can you feed it your table schema in the background? I believe this was at the section that you were using SQL and tinkering with it through Agentc.
So is Yarrow, is the question here if basically you're saying if we have new tables that we want to query, how do we get those queries? How do we make that queryable?
And to avoid hallucinations, he's clarifying.
Yes, I see. To avoid hallucinations. Yeah. So that's what we're doing. We're using GPT in the back end, and we are injecting in each of those prompts that I was sending with my queries. I also injected the schema to GPT. Each of them, we inject the schema to GPT. It's just that sometimes, and that reduces most of the hallucinations, but sometimes it's still, if it gets confused, it seems to rather make something up as opposed to just saying, I can't answer this. And we tell it in our prompt that we inject. We say, don't return an answer if you're not confident, but sometimes it ignores that and it tries and fails.
How often, this is a question from me, how often are these hallucinations just coming up day to day in your testing? Is this something that you're just consistently trying to mitigate in everything in this development period?
I think
or are you trying to welcome it just a little bit, because you did say there was some creativity with it, so I'm curious about that kind of balance.
Yeah, this is this is it's a difficult balance, and this is why every company who's using LLMs is struggling with hallucinations. Like every single product is dealing with this, and it's both the reason where you could say, I could have gone back into that ChatGPT 4 thing, and I could have said something like, make the graphics pop, and I could say other vague things, and it can understand it. And it's because it has some ability to produce things that look like creativity because of the randomness that it uses. But that's also the source of its errors.
Yeah, interesting. We have another question here, specifically speaking to Agentc from, this is a question from Vince. Can it iterate on answers you have gotten? Like, what address did this trade after?
Yeah. We had that in a previous, so you're basically wanting it to be, you want to be able to chat about the data, and you want the previous result to be context for the analysis. And we wanted that too. It's just that as the conversation continued, it became really difficult because it was difficult for us to get it to not hallucinate as the conversation grew, and because you got you have the questions, you have the SQL, you have the schema, you have the data, and all of that is context that this thing needs to understand your next question, which is going to may produce more SQL, may or may not produce more SQL, more data. So it was really hard for us. I do believe that there is a need, I know that people are working on the things that can do this, chat mode, but chat mode was really hard for us, so we reverted to simple Q&A.
And that makes sense. We have Vince chatting in chat right now. Yes, that's definitely why sometimes I just start fresh in GPT, because its context has gotten so off the wall.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
Yeah, just goes off the rails.
Yes, it does. The next few months, from what I understand, are going to be quite exciting for this kind of overlap of SQL and what you're working on. What are some things that are exciting you in these next few months? And what do you see kind of in the next phase of this implementation with the graph?
Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm really excited to see the SQL data service launch, and for it to be used by all of the great projects that are building on top of the graph. I think that'll be really exciting for us to see. And the first thing that's going to launch is going to be subgraph SQL, and then there are several teams working on substreams-based SQL products. So that's going to make it so the graph is much better at data analytics. But you'll be able to start building data analytics products on top of the graph. And then, I guess related to that is, I think probably everybody here knows that we're working on a AI data service, and I'm excited. Semiotic is leading, bringing subgraph SQL to the graph, and that's where most of our time is being spent right now. But after that is done, I'm excited to bring an AI service to the graph, and then that'll let us start building stuff all integrated in the graphs, so you don't have to go to GPT-4 or use the GPT APIs. You could do both. You could get the data from the graph, and you can do the analysis in the graph. And I think that's going to be really powerful, and it's going to be fun. What we'll be able to build.
Truly It's really powerful and exciting. The decentralized indexing, decentralized compute, that is really incredible stuff. Vince, who had the previous question, also jumped in chat again. Also, I recommend using Claude.ai. I found it much better at code. And that's good for me, Vince. I'll check that out too.
Me too.
So, in the interest of anyone having questions, please feel free to have some questions. Right now, Sam and I'd like to just chat, Sam, about kind of what you see for the kind of where decentralized AI and also where centralized AI. I'm curious myself about, we have such a centralized powerhouse in Microsoft and Google with artificial intelligence, and then Web3 being decentralized. I'm curious what your thoughts are on where the direction of AI might go in regards to decentralization and having it be a viable competitor to these centralized solutions out there.
Yeah, this is a topic I'm thinking a lot about these days. Well, let's start on the centralized side, and let's think about training. I was looking at Llama 7B, so it's a 7 billion parameter Llama open source LLM. It's called Llama. It's a popular one. Facebook trained that, and it used I think it was 128,000 GPU hours. 128,000. Or somewhere it was over 100,000. So let's just say 100,000. And it used A100 GPUs, which are basically top of the line GPUs, and they had all of those co-located. So for training, decentralized training, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough because there's the network latency with decentralized compute. You get about 1,000. There are references out here for this, but you get about 1,000x overhead for latency. So that would then mean instead of 100,000 GPU hours, you're looking at 1 million GPU hours to get something like Llama 7B. Okay, so but once those models are trained, what are being made these days are called foundation models, and so we have a lot of great centralized projects that are making open source foundation models. And of course, all these projects are competing with the closed source groups like OpenAI. OpenAI does not share their LLMs, so we have a bunch of open source models that are being released, and this is going to be useful because with an open source model, you can run tiny ones on a CPU, and you can run some great ones with like 4 to 8 GPUs. And okay, so we can do open source models, and we can do those we can run them in a decentralized way. So now, a lot of people have been thinking about why do decentralized AI? Why do decentralized inference? Inference is running a pre-trained model. So inference is a good word to know in AI. It means you have a pre-trained model or already trained model, and you put some inputs into it. And you run it or execute it. That's called inference. When you use GPT, you hit enter. Their LLM, your data's going into a neural network. They're running it. It's called inference. Okay, I believe in decentralized AI where you're using inference, and where I think it has the most value is when the output of the model goes back on chain, and where the output is going back into a smart contract. I think that's because smart contracts are typically almost always have some sort of TVL. I mean, no matter what you're doing, whether it's like, you know, I mean, if an application's on chain, there's typically some sort of TVL involved with it. And I think we need, I think that decentralized AI, the most valuable projects are going to be the ones whose outputs go back on chain, and they're going to be used to make decisions, on-chain decisions. And so this kind of gets us into this field that's emerging even in Web 2, that's becoming popular right now, and it's agents. Agents that can make decisions on your behalf. And I think that we're basically, imagine in the future what I'm imagining, and other projects are too. A lot of projects are raising a lot of money on this. Imagine a future where you have decentralized agents that are unstoppable, and that can be updating protocol parameters or doing things on your behalf. That loop is where I think the value is, and where the graph comes in, which is of course the most important aspect of this conversation, is that agents require observations. So there's this agent environment paradigm that has existed since AI has existed, where an agent gets observations from the environment. It takes those observations and then it makes an action on the environment in order to maximize some sort of reward. And if your observations are bad or not trustworthy or garbage, then the agent is going to be making garbage actions. And the graph, what is the graph? The graph provides a view of all on-chain activity. So in a future, if we have a future where there are agents that are doing optimization on our behalf, then those agents, and if we want them to be trustless, and we don't want the agent's inputs to be relying on some sort of centralized single point of failure, then the graph comes into play, because the graph is on a path to being able to provide verifiable data or verifiable observations across the entire crypto, like against all chains. And that's going to be awesome. That's going to be where I think there's going to be a lot of value for the graph, just providing these verifiable views for not just AI solutions that like core devs build, but we want our data to be used by other projects. We want to see our data we want to see the graph being composed on, not just by all these great applications that already are composing on us, but also like on-chain protocols who use the graph's data and then do something with that data, and then it gets fed back, it gets used in their protocol, which is an on-chain protocol. And so there was a lot, but if anybody has any questions or comments on that.
Well, I can say that resonates quite well with me. I'm personally, I'm wary of centralized AI and how it just naturally will have a centralizing effect on kind of that power struggle and the compute struggle. And having an open source and competitive alternative that is auditable, that is able to be run by a network of permissionless participants is quite motivating for myself. And I'm sure everyone in this call, where we know we've seen this song and dance before with Web 2, where once you have these centralized powers coming in, it'll just continue centralizing. So just having the graph and the infrastructure of the graph be able to provide that data lake, and from there be able to build on top of that, and from its very core be verifiable, from its very core be verifiable and auditable, and from there can actually spring some incredible things. I'm just very excited for the future of the graph and AI, and having this verifiability through and through is just really exciting.
I'm excited about it too.
Yeah. Let's see. And at that point, I'm sure we can continue talking here. If there are any questions out there, feel free to ask, but I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat.
I see one from Vince.
Let's see, Vince. Oh, there we go. You're right, Vince. I'll read this out. Do you think the first thing leveraged will be automated trading with these agents? That's a great question.
Yeah, I think, okay, so even though when you think AI right now, you probably think ChatGPT or LLMs. But actually AI exists on a spectrum of decision making where LLMs are the most complex, some of the most complex AI we have out there. And there are a lot of people who would even put linear regression or optimization into the AI category. I think that I know people are talking about using LLMs for automated trading, and I know that people are experimenting with this, but I think mainly because of the hallucination problem and the risk of loss, I would be, even though long term I believe that we will be using LLMs to be involved with trading. For example, here's something that you could think about: using an LLM to monitor sentiment analysis. And then, make me money on meme coins, where you have an LLM monitoring sentiment analysis. But then what if someone figures it out and they start like poisoning Twitter with spam feed, and your LLM starts picking it up and then, manipulates this thing. So we got to be super careful about it. Yes, AI, exactly. AI wars. So I'm interested. It's important that we start making this feedback loop that I was talking about, where you have verifiable data from the graph. You wanted that going into an LLM. There's going to be a lot of trust or safety research that's going to go on in the next few years that's going to solve a lot of these problems. I think it's important that we start getting this flow working now. But in terms of what I would put back on chain, I would do something I would work on something I would be using like traditional ML, traditional optimization, stuff that I can't run on chain, but I still want the graph's verified data going into my verified optimization algorithm, which is still going to be run in a decentralized way. And those outputs could then go back on chain and be involved with like trading strategies, things like that.
And then once those bots get good, from there we just sit back and just get all the rewards.
That's right.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see
it will be
the dynamics and the, like you said, poisoning, and I mean, my gosh, it's
gonna be crazy.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, Sam Green, it has been an absolute privilege to have you on the Graph Builders Office Hours. I really appreciate your time and expertise and work within the Graph ecosystem. For anyone out there that would like to get a hold of you, to reach out to you, how can they do that?
My least noisy channel is DMs on Twitter. And if you want anything, if you DM me on Twitter, that'll be fastest. That's what I'll see immediately. My email is sam@semiotic.ai. That's also a good one. Awesome. If you're not on Twitter.
Awesome. And for the last word, I'll let you have it, Sam, and take it away, and have a good rest of your day, Sam.
Thanks a lot, Marcus, and thanks a lot, everyone. If you want to play around with Agentc, which was that natural language to SQL tool, you can go to Agentc, Agentc.xyz, and there's a sign-up list, and if you do the sign up list, just ping me and say, give me access. Actually, you just DM me. Just DM me on one of those channels, and I'll add you. Don't even bother going through that sign up list, and I'll add you directly.
Awesome.
Because otherwise, if you sign up, I have to go look at the sign up list, and I have to realize who it is. So yeah, if you DM me on Twitter, 0x Sam Green, just say add me to Agentc, or email me at sam@semiotic.ai. Just say add me to Agentc. I'll add you. And I just need your email address. That's the thing. When you DM me, please give me your email address.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you for joining this episode of Graph Builders Office Hours. Take care, everybody. Thanks, Sam. That was awesome, man.